A very good evening to all of you. I welcome you all to the ICANN initiative, the Hindu and Indian Express analysis. So we will start the day by first looking into the contents we're going to be discussing. First, we'll have a look at the issues which are related to federalism, particularly on the three-language formula which the current new education policy has proposed, and the arguments for and against it. Second, we are going to be looking at the Jammu and Kashmir issue, and yesterday we saw whatever content we saw under this issue, everything we saw against the government's measure of abrogation of 370 and 35A. So today we are going to be looking at the arguments in favor of the government's measure. So those arguments which support the abrogation of Article 370. Third, we'll be looking at issues related to children, in which we'll be having a look at the data related to UNESCO's policy brief. And fourth, we'll be looking at India-Pakistan relations, particularly the recent the FATF meeting that is going to happen in the month of October, and what Pakistan's recent measure, which has kind of created a controversy again between the two countries. So first, we will have a look at the prelims theme of the day. And I'm sorry that I couldn't go through the comments section in detail to see if some of you have answered yesterday's theme. I did see that few of you have written the answers, but I couldn't get the time to go through your answers. So today's theme of the day will take up history. Again, in history, if you look at the themes that we are selecting, these are those themes where you probably cannot take a guess, you cannot hazard a guess, because that might lead you to negative marking. So these are those straightforward questions which you are sure are definitely going to give you those 2 marks. So that 2 marks will be in your pocket if you are sure short kind of questions. So today we'll again be looking at history, where first we'll make a list of the important governor generals in a chronological order during the British colonial rule. Then you will have to write their contribution during each of these governor generals' tenure. So what have been their positive contributions, and also what have been their negative contributions. Apart from that, several important events that would have happened during their tenure, both positive and otherwise. So some of the important events that would have happened during their tenure also needs to be written. So this can come in the match the following, or it can also come as statements that somebody introduced some policy. So this kind of facts will help you to eliminate the wrong statements in your MCQs also. So now we'll start with the first topic of the day, which is the issue related to federalism. So federalism and federal polity is one of the basic structures of the constitution, and the constitutional the underpinnings and all, and the principles, the constitutional principles and all of that comes under your GS paper 2. So in this, the recent news, as we have briefly discussed in the contents, is related to the new education policy 2020. The new education policy 2020 makes a provision that the 3-language formula is going to be encouraged, now is going to be adopted under the new education policy. So this 3-language formula means that what is the language of the state, and then there is going to be English, and then there is going to be a compulsory Hindi. So even in the past, when the 3-language formula was introduced, there have been opposition from several states, particularly the southern states, because they saw it as an imposition of Hindi in those states, which is actually not required for them. So that is why there has been this opposition from the southern states, particularly the state of Tamil Nadu, regarding the 3-language formula. So therefore, this is one more issue, that is the imposition of Hindi on the states is one more issue that comes in the smooth federal relations between the center and the states. So in this case, what is the most important irritant is that the southern states see that the Hindi is being imposed. So rather than encouraging the people to voluntarily learn Hindi, there is this compulsory imposition of Hindi that is taking place, which these states are against. So imposition should not be there, but if you ask for voluntarily accepting Hindi as a language and learning it, then that is not a problem. But compulsory imposition of Hindi in the southern states, that is a problem. So therefore, there have been several historic agitations in the past, particularly in Tamil Nadu, against the imposition of Hindi. So this has become an emotive and a political issue in the state of Tamil Nadu. So the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Palaniswamy has also recently again told that the state is going to stick to the two language formula that the state has always adopted. So in this two language formula, one is the Tamil, which is going to be taught, and the other is the English, which is seen as a global link language. So these are the only two languages that the Tamil Nadu has followed under its two language policy, and historically also it has discarded the three language policy in the previous times also. So now we are going to be looking at the argument in favor of the three language formula. The first thing is it is going to promote multilingualism in India. So when we were studying the unique features of new education policy, we told that we read that the education in mother tongue, that is going to be instruction in mother tongue till class 5, and this three language formula is going to make Indian education system that is based on multilingualism. So this is going to be, the multilingualism is going to be the USP of the Indian educational system, which can get recognized globally also. So therefore this three language formula is going to promote multilingualism in the Indian education sector. Second, it is also held that it is going to improve and further strengthen the national unity, because Hindi is always considered as a national link language. So therefore when Hindi is learned by even the southern states, it is going to completely establish Hindi as a national link language. Apart from the international link language, which is the English, we will have Hindi as a national link language, and there will be some language which is understandable by every person in the country and is therefore going to further strengthen the unity. So this is the another argument in favor of the three language formula. Have a look at the arguments against this three language formula. So for this we have to understand the case of Tamil Nadu. So as I said, Tamil Nadu even in the past has discarded this three language formula, and it has always stuck with its two language formula of the educational system being based on just Tamil and English. So English has become a global link language. So most of the people in Tamil Nadu, because they learn these two languages of Tamil and English, they are well versed in English. So this fluency of the Tamilians in English has made them be very attractive for various job opportunities. So therefore Tamil Nadu has been able to contribute its human resource in those spheres, particularly in the information technology sector, where fluency in English is very important. So apart from the technical skill, the fluency in English of the Tamilians have made them very attractive human resource for the jobs in the information technology sector. So this is a case of Tamil Nadu. Here we can see how just focusing on two languages and that fluency in English language has made them more attractive as a human resource in the IT sector. So this can be one argument why this three language formula is not needed at all. The second is of course the voluntary learning. So many of us also know Hindi, even if many of us may not belong to the Hindi belt. We know Hindi through our Hindi friends, we know our Hindi through the songs and the Bollywood movies. So there is a difference between compulsorily imposing Hindi, on the other hand just voluntarily developing a liking towards Hindi and then trying to learn it. So this voluntary learning is what can be encouraged among the population rather than imposing a three language formula. So that is going to even make this learning process more smoother for the people, because they are doing it voluntarily, because they have an inclination to learn. So they are not being forced and compelled to learn a particular language. So promoting voluntary learning against the imposing is one way through which Hindi can be encouraged, and it can still become a national link language, and it can still further strengthen the unity of India. All this without being Hindi imposed on the population by making it a compulsion. So this is the argument against the three language formula. The third one is the economic compulsion. So in this, if you look at Tamil Nadu, the previous economic survey has also highlighted that Tamil Nadu receives one of the highest immigrants within India. So many people from different states are migrating to these attractive states where economic activities are happening, and in that migration to Tamil Nadu is one of the highest in India. So, in such a situation, many of the people, the so-called the owners of the businesses in Tamil Nadu, they will have to interact with these workers who are particularly from the Hindi belt, particularly from Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. These owners of various businesses in Tamil Nadu are they will have to interact with these laborers in Hindi. So many of the people in Tamil Nadu this way have picked up a conversational Hindi. So this conversational Hindi has been picked up by many people in Tamil Nadu because they will have to engage with the migrant population in getting the work done. So at the end of the day, what is more important is not to learn Hindi in that purest sense of the term, but rather if you are able to convey in Hindi to the other person, and if the person who knows Hindi, who is from the Hindi belt, is able to understand you, that should serve the purpose. So many of them have already picked up this conversational Hindi, and they will continue to do so because Tamil Nadu keeps receiving migrant population, and same is the case with the other southern states. So this way itself, through people to people interaction itself, the conversational Hindi can be picked up by these southern states, for which no compulsion and imposition from the top is required. So this is another reason, another argument against this top-down imposition of Hindi or the compulsory three-language formula. So as a conclusion, what we have to write is, first of all, there must not be any compulsion. So no top-down imposition of Hindi should be there. It must be left to the voluntarily people accepting and liking the language and then learning it. Second is, India is a federal polity, and such imposition of one language, Hindi, which is predominantly spoken in the northern India, on the southern states is going to kind of disturb this federal balance in our federal polity. The third is, India is a country which has the linguistic diversity. So we have a very rich linguistic diversity which needs to be respected. So such imposition and focusing on one language and trying to spread it is not much encouraged, should not be much encouraged in India, because we are a land of very rich linguistic diversity, and that needs to be preserved that way. And fourth is, there must not be any superiority or superior treatment that is given to one regional language over the other. So Hindi is also spoken in the northern region, while several southern Indian languages are spoken in the southern region. So looking at that from this way, even Hindi is a regional language. So therefore, giving preference to one regional language over another regional language should not be done. So this way you can give your way forward. And now we'll go to the next, which is related to the J&K issue. So as I said, this definitely comes under your GS paper 2, and as I said, today we'll be looking at those arguments which are in favor of the government's measure of abrogating Article 370 and 35A. So we are going to be looking at arguments in support of the government's measure. So this is something rare to see in the newspapers because they mostly oppose, and whenever you have a question on critically analyze the government's measure of abrogating Article 370, then definitely you will need some good amount of points in support of the government as well. So till now, whatever arguments we have seen was against the government. So today we'll be looking at arguments in favor of government. The first is that Article 35A had several issues associated with it. So the government has done the right thing by removing 35A. So let us now examine what were all the issues that were associated with Article 35A. The first thing is that it was discriminatory in nature. So way back in 1979, the court had quashed the appointment of Dr. Ravinder Madan, who was actually an assistant professor in a government medical college in Jammu. So what the court held was this person cannot be appointed as an assistant professor in a college in Jammu because the person has married a non-state subject. So the person has gotten married to a person who is outside of Jammu and Kashmir. So therefore, the person now no longer enjoys the benefit of being a permanent resident of Jammu and Kashmir and is therefore not eligible for government jobs. So this status of the permanent residentship, which is given to people who are residing there permanently, who belong to that place permanently. So only they had these privileges, that is they could own property, while the other non-state subjects could not own property. Then they were eligible for government employment, but people from outside the state were not eligible for government employment. So the court held in this that Dr. Ravinder was not eligible to be appointed as an assistant professor in Jammu because the person has married a non-state subject, and therefore the person now ceases to be a permanent resident of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So therefore this permanent residentship concept, which was in the Article 35A, it was very discriminatory in nature, which was discriminating people, and it was denying them opportunities even though they were eligible for that according to the merit. The second is the provisions were very much biased against women. So for instance, if a woman is a permanent resident of Jammu and Kashmir, and by being a permanent resident has several privileges that she can enjoy, but if she gets married to a person who is not a permanent resident of Jammu Kashmir, that is, if she gets married to a person, say from Uttar Pradesh, then that woman is going to lose all the privileges of being a permanent resident. So now that person is going to lose the permanent residentship, and is not therefore eligible for government jobs, or she cannot own property. So there are many such things, many rights which the woman is going to lose out. So therefore it was biased against women. The third issue with respect to Article 35A is economic mobility. So it was not just directed against the woman, but also the other people. For instance, some Dalit Valmikis and their descendants, they were brought to Jammu and Kashmir from Amritsar and Gurdaspur in Punjab, and these Dalit Valmikis, they were engaged in the manual scavenging. So they were brought from Punjab to Kashmir, and they were engaged as Safai Karmacharis. So this used to happen way back in 1937 itself, or 1957 rather. So even since 1957, these people have settled in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and they have become an integral part of the state. In spite of that, just because these people have not been born and brought up in Kashmir, but they were moved in there from Punjab, they have not been made eligible for government jobs. So therefore they had to somehow continue in these designated occupation of being a Safai Karmachari, and they never got the eligibility to apply for a government job. So this is kind of perpetuating this exploitation against this vulnerable section who are engaged traditionally in manual scavenging as Safai Karmacharis, and even now, because of they not being given the permanent residentship, they are not eligible for government jobs. So this way there is a limitation on the economic mobility of the people also, even though they have been working in the state for decades together now. So these are the issues that are associated with Article 35A. Now we will have a look at the other issues which are we will have a look at the other arguments in favor of the government. So now we saw that there were Article 35A had various issues. So therefore the government did the right thing in removing all these. The second argument in favor of the government's measure is that there were several discriminatory laws that were applicable in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. For instance, Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code, it was struck down by the court, but however it continued in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So because there are some restrictions related to the applicability of the judgments into the state of Jammu Kashmir. So even when Section 377 of IPC was struck down, it continued in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So therefore these discriminatory laws continued to exist in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, even where it was declared to be unconstitutional and void and null in the rest of India. So such discriminatory laws continue to exist in Jammu and Kashmir, and therefore the government did the right thing to remove it. Okay, and the next argument is the critical legislation. So there are several critical legislations like the Right to Information Act, the Right to Education Act, Prohibition of the Child Marriage Act. So these are those acts which are not applicable to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So why? Because as I said, certain laws which is enacted by the central government, is enacted by the parliament, will be made applicable to the state of Jammu and Kashmir only when it goes through a process. Only when the president approves, then only it will become applicable in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So because of this, several of the critical legislations that were enacted by the parliament were not applicable to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, because it has its own assemblies which will have to approve it to be applicable in the state. So these many important critical legislations never became applicable to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and all this precisely because of the separate identity that the state got under Article 370. So the center therefore did the right thing in abrogating 370 article. Now we move on to the next argument. The next argument says that now that Article 370 is removed, now there can be transformational development, and that this transformational development is already kind of happening in the state of Jammu and Kashmir in the last 1 year since Article 370 has been abrogated. So in this, consider the example of anti-terror operations. So they are now being executed in a more coordinated manner compared to before, when 370 was in operation. So the anti-terror operations have started to be taking place in a more coordinated manner. Then now the National Saffron Mission has been launched, where more than 3,500 hectares of land has now been rejuvenated for saffron cultivation. It has been given the GI tag, which is also going to make the saffron grown here get a very premium premium prices in the international market. Similarly, government has also been offering support to the farming sector in the state. So the farmers are now being introduced to what is called as ultra high density apple plantations. So this way, support to the farming sector is also being given by the government. Similarly, tourism and connectivity is also now being encouraged by the government in the last 1 year. So 11 airports in the state of in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and 2 in Ladakh have now been considered under the Udan scheme of the government, which is Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik. So in this, 11 airports in J&K and 2 in Ladakh are being considered. So this is going to further boost tourism in the 2 UTs and is also going to boost the connectivity. Next is related to the healthcare. So since the abrogation of the article, 2 AIIMS have been set up, and also 5 new medical colleges have been set up in here, and Ayushman Bharat has now become applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. So this way, even in the case of sector of healthcare, several improvements are being seen. And therefore, all of these shows that transformative development is happening in Jammu and Kashmir now compared to what happened before. So these are all the recent developments which have happened in the last 1 year. So the credits needs to be given to the government for taking this measure. The last argument in support of the state is this measure has led to strengthening the democracy. Democracy as in the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Acts, which have given constitutional status to the panchayats and the urban local bodies. So as far as this is concerned, the Block Development Council elections happened in the month of October 2019, which saw a record turnout of the people who are coming and voting, and also it was relatively free of violence. So this shows how even democracy is getting strengthened since the removal of 370. So all of these are the arguments in support of the government's measure to abrogate 370 and 35A. Now we'll go to the next topic, which is related to the issues regarding children. So this is a part of your GS2 syllabus, which talks of the vulnerable sections of the society and what measures are being taken for them. So under which children definitely form a very crucial part of the vulnerable sections of society. So this whole article was about UNESCO's policy brief. So UNESCO has come out with a policy brief which talks about the impact of the corona pandemic on the education of children. So it says that almost 24 million children are at the risk of not returning to the school next year because of the economic impact of the pandemic. So because of pandemic, many people have lost their jobs. Now they don't have money to send their kids to school. So nearly 24 million children are going to be at the risk of not returning to school next year. Of this 24 million children, particularly girls and even young women are facing this risk more disproportionately. So they are being more disproportionately affected, and the chances that they will not return to their schools next year is very high. So this is regarding the impact that this pandemic has had on the education of children. So if you have a question like analyze the impact of pandemic on various sectors, education is one important sector, and children are one of the important stakeholders. So in which you can use the UNESCO's policy brief to say that 24 million children will may not return to school next year because of the economic fallout of the pandemic. Now we'll move on to the next topic, which is the India-Pakistan relations. So this definitely is a part of your GS2 syllabus on international relations. So there were 2 articles on it, which is about the 2 recent developments that have happened. So these 2 can be seen as 2 important issues between the 2 countries. The first is related to the cross-border terrorism. So Pakistan's involvement in various terror attacks that have happened in India is now beyond any doubt. So also Pakistan has been under the grey list of the Financial Action Task Force, and Pakistan now has it has to now take certain steps if Pakistan should not be blacklisted. So for that, Pakistan will have to take measures to stop the terror financing infrastructure. It has to take steps against the terror financing infrastructure in the country, and it has to put behind bars those people who have been the perpetrators of several terrorist attacks. So as far as this is concerned, what India is now saying is this FATF meeting is going to happen in October 2020. So now what India is saying is India is going to highlight the failure of Pakistan to take measures against terrorism in this October 2020 meeting of FATF that is going to happen. So India is going to raise this issue that Pakistan has not taken any action on the Pulwama terror attack, on even the 26/11 Mumbai attacks and the Daniel Pearl murder case. So if we talk of the 26/11 Mumbai attacks, so a case against Zakir Rahman Lakwi is still pending before an anti-terror court in Pakistan since the year 2009. This case is pending. Similarly, the elite fighters Hafiz Saeed is still not behind the bars. So all of this point towards the Pakistan's inactions, and India is going to point all these out in the October FATF meeting. So therefore this shows that our the issue of cross-border terrorism between the 2 countries and the way they are cooperating with each other still needs a lot of cooperation between the 2 countries, and this is one issue between the 2 countries that has perennially existed. The second issue is the Pakistan's new political map. So now Pakistan has come out with a new political map. It has released a new political map, and in this new map it has shown the entire Indian territory of Jammu and Kashmir as part of Pakistan. It has even shown parts of Gujarat, including Junagadh, as part of Pakistan itself. So this through this measure, through releasing this new political map, Pakistan has created another issue between the 2 countries across the border, that it is claiming even parts of Gujarat to be an integral part of Pakistan. So this is another new issue that is now cropped up. So now these are the other articles which were not important from the executive view, so you can safely ignore them. So now we'll have a look at the prelims question related to current affairs. So first you have to tell what is this UNESCO's Creative Cities Network. So what this initiative is all about, that needs to be found out. And secondly, recently UNESCO has added one of the Indian cities into this Creative City of Gastronomy. So one of the Indian cities have been put under this Creative City of Gastronomy. So you have to tell me which Indian city has been put under this particular head. So similarly, there are other heads like Creative City for films and arts or something. So like that, you first have to find the details about this issue, and also details about this Creative Cities Network, and also which city has been recently added. So this was in news and you should know about it. So that's it for today. Thank you.